Alright, today we're taking a look at the Maytag Commercial Technology Bravos X dryer. This thing was working fine. I opened the door to check the dryness of the clothes. They weren't quite dry enough. I closed the door, pushed the start button. It would not start. All the lights would come on, but it would not start. I started checking out a few things, and I'd had this apart once before, and I took this back apart only to discover there is really nothing in there. You have your electronics here on the top, but on this back side, do not take that off. Repeat, do not try to take that off. It won't come off, and it's welded in a couple of places. Now, if you go through the top here, you can get to some of the electronics, but generally speaking, that's not going to be your problem. Most of the time, to fix this thing, all you're going to need is a 1/4-inch ratchet socket, a putty knife. You need the putty knife, so if you're taking the top apart, you can slide it under here, and there's a little clip it will release. Same thing on the other side, and then remove. There's about 6 screws on the back, and then the top will come off. Like say inside that is all your electronics. Generally speaking, they're pretty good. Now on this front is where all the workings of this thing are. So what you see here is your vent, and you'll have to pull this out to remove this cover so you can get at some of the stuff and clean that out, because your motor is right there that pushes the air hot and cold in or out depending on what you're doing. And there's about 4 screws that hold that together, and there again you're using your 1/4-inch socket to get those. Now right in this area is where your heater goes. I pulled that out to check the electronic components on that, and back here that you can't really see is where the thermal fuse is. It's right next to this thing right back here that you can't really get a good light on and see. That's a common problem for all these, all different brands, for that fuse to blow in certain circumstances. So that thing's about 17 bucks right now. So I have a new one of those I'm going to put in there, and that's the old one. And if you run a continuity meter across there, if it's good, it'll read. If it's bad, it'll say 0. Here's your new one. Like I say, right now those are going for about 17 bucks. Now another thing you might take a look at while you're in there is your heater. Now it's just inside this cone here, and you can replace just the coils, or you can buy that whole sleeve with coils in there. I just replaced the coils, and here are your sensors. This thing actually goes in there like this. This goes to the back of the unit. This goes to the front. Your connections here are your 220 volt that's going to connect the heater, and then you have your shut off high temp, and then your sensor that senses when to turn it on and off. If it gets below a certain temperature, it turns on. Gets above a certain temperature, it turns off. And then this one's kind of a override. If it gets too hot, it'll shut it down in case this one over here fails. And this tube just slides in there, and connects back up, and then connect your wires back up. But first, before I put that back in, I'm going to put my thermal fuse back in so I have a little bit more room to work. Between those few things, you should be able to fix this thing, 15-20 minutes if you have the part and know how to take it off. Like I say, this front cover comes off with just a couple of clips and the putty knife to push the clips in each corner, and then that front cover will come off, and you can get access to the heater, and your switch and your fuse and stuff inside there. So like I say, it's basic if you know how to do it. Do not take that back off, and you should be fine. Thanks for viewing.